Hello, everyone. I want to take an opportunity to create some videos around my CCIE lab. I've noticed some of the information out there. There's some gaps in some other stuff people have done before, so I kind of wanted to fill those in, share some information with other people. Um, I'm going to start off this one with trying to look at how I designed my CCIE lab or collaboration lab network topology, looking at the V3 that's just come out. As you can see on the screen, this is a sample topology that Cisco provided. This is from a webinar that Ben Ng did recently, which is out on the Cisco Learning Network. So if you want to go check that out, that is definitely a great resource, obviously, to look at. But it has this network diagram in it to kind of help everybody design their networks. So one of the things, though, is it's kind of lacking. It doesn't tell you exactly what you need. It doesn't give you a ton of information other than that overall design. So to actually take that and build that into a network that I can use and I can design, my next step usually is to take that and go into a full network diagram, and which will come up kind of like what you see on the screen here now. So what I've done is I've taken the Cisco sample topology and broke it out. So every node, so where it has multiple call managers, now I've got my UCM pub, UCM sub, and the way I did it is basically dividing out every network too. So I've got an HQ server network, I've got HQ phones, and HQ data. Data is where your PC is going to be, that will have Jabber running on it. With the V3 lab, there is no more physical phones in the lab, but since I still have physical phones in my lab, I'm still creating the VLANs for that. That way I can still use some hard phones. I can still play around with those features. Definitely part of my learning to do that work. Another thing I did on my network diagram, as you can see, is I'm putting in all my host names, and then I go ahead and I put IP addresses in for each of my nodes. One of the things to note is that this kind of, for me, is more of a living document. Even though I try and make it as static as I can, something will come up later on. Maybe I'll decide. Right now, I've got CMS as a single node. So one of the things that was pointed out is that the V3 is going to have a lot of information around high availability and redundancy and those sorts of things. So I might decide later on that I'm going to break my CMS apart and have it be a multi-node or add some redundancy to it. So, if I want to do that, it's not a big deal. All I've got to do is take it, maybe I'll add a second node, add a third node, and just add it to my document, edit the document at that time. So again, all I'm doing here is I'm copying basically what Cisco has provided and putting that into my own document. Now, my numbering format for each of these is something basically I've taken from previous documents. If you do some Google search on these network topologies for the CCIE Collaboration Lab or CCIE Voice Lab, you can get some ideas of phone number ranges used. The NPA NXX really is arbitrary. In general, what it seems to be is they'll have the HQ site and the site B are typically in the US, and the site C is typically somewhere overseas, somewhere in either Europe or Asia. That's been the generalization. Taking the same thing and converting that to some PSTNs, typically what you end up with is, you have to have multiple phones, or in this case, just multiple lines on a single phone for your sample PSTN. And keep in mind, in the actual CCIE lab, you don't have access to the PSTN, but if you're doing lab and you're creating it, you obviously have to create something. You have to make that so that you have a sample to actually make those calls to. But in general, your line one is going to be in the same NPANXX as your HQ. Line 2 is going to be part of site B. Line 3 is going to be part or local to site C, and then line 4 is going to be international to everybody. Line 5, where I've got 911, 999, which is emergency calling, was on some of the IE voice stuff. I haven't seen it on the IE Collaboration, the V2 at least. I didn't notice anything when I was doing some studying for that. And so far in my preparation for studying for the V3, I have not seen anything around 911, but it's always good to know how 911 works, how to route 911 calls, doing all that stuff. And I'll probably create some videos around that at some point. Now, once you have your general layout, obviously, the way I would actually approach this and the way I built my topology is you start off, again, build out your sites. You say, okay, I got sites, 3 sites, HQ, site B, site C, and then I've got some kind of PSTN, some of these auxiliary pieces. Then I go in and I say, okay, I'm going to have VLANs. Here's which VLANs I need. I need a server VLAN, a phone VLAN, and a data VLAN at each site. So I build those in. And then I'll go and add some IP addresses to those. And then I'll start adding my nodes, okay? And in this case, then I can start IPing each of those nodes and going from there. This kind of makes things, to me, it makes things a little simpler. I've done this before where I just use an Excel sheet and list it out. That works fine too. This gives me a more graphical representation. I can visualize, see whatever I'm doing. I hope that helps explain at least kind of how I've come about it, how I designed my network. Again, all I'm doing is taking the Cisco topology, the sample topology that they provided, that Benning provided here, and I'm breaking that out into nodes here. So for every pair of nodes, like for UCM becomes, since they've listed, well, they put 3 boxes on their network diagram. When I go to mine, I've got a UCM pub and a UCM sub. That's for the redundancy piece. And then I've also got a SME node, which is a single node here. Same thing. IMP became 2 nodes, so for failover. So I've got an IMP pub and an IMP sub. Again, Unity connection, same thing. Pub and a sub. I've got UCCX with a node 1 and 2. My expressways, 2 expressway nodes. In my DMZ, I've got 2 expressway E's. All of that for the redundancy piece so that we can work on in future, when I build these out and do the future work, I can do the failover and redundancy portion. I hope that's been helpful for everybody. I hope I can do some more labs in the future. I'm hoping I'm planning on actually doing, showing how I kind of build my network as far as at home. Thank you all for watching, and please, if you see anything more that you'd like to know, definitely comment, and thank you.